Hi guys, so in this video I'm going to be talking about some of the worst movies in my collection. Now, when I say worst movies, these movies to me are possibly some of the worst movies ever made that I have in my collection, and I absolutely get a kick out of all of these, to be honest, because of how bad they are. I just really have a good time with these movies. If you're looking for good, bad movies, I think this is pretty much a solid list. And yeah, I just have these in my collection. I'm proud that they're in there because I have such a good time with them. They are so entertaining. But yeah, I just have an absolute blast with these movies because of how bad they are. And yeah, a lot of these ones are quite famous for being bad, but nevertheless, I have so much fun with them. So yeah, these are just the ones that are completely rotten, and yeah, they're just so entertaining. So yeah, that being said, gonna kick it off with a bang with this one. This is possibly one of the most infamous bad movies ever made, and it is Tommy Wiseau's The Room. Yeah, this is a blueprint of how not to make a movie. It's so fun. Everything from the awful acting, the horrible unnecessary green screen, the story is just horrendous. The characters are hilarious. Everything about this movie is just, it's a masterpiece. It really is. And I have an absolute blast with it. It is so much fun. I can't say much more than that. It is renowned for its infamy, this movie, and it is just has to be seen to be believed. So yeah, that is my first movie I've got, The Room. Coming up next, we have arguably one of the worst sequels ever made, one of the worst video game adaptations ever made, and it is, of course, Mortal Kombat Annihilation. I loved this movie as a kid because I just didn't know any better, and yeah, it is just, it's wonderful how bad it is. It is one of the most stale movies, yet so creative with its bad acting. It is just, again, like The Room, it has to be seen to be believed. The cuts in this movie are horrendous. The acting in it is laughable. It has some of the best one-liners in it that you'll ever quote. It just is, it's phenomenal. It really is in its awfulness, and I just get a kick out of it. I love the 95 Mortal Kombat so much. I just really dig that movie, and because of the cliffhanger that movie ends on, Mortal Kombat Annihilation just doesn't deliver on a solid follow-up in any way, shape or form. It is just hysterical, this movie, and I enjoy it so much. So yeah, that is Mortal Kombat Annihilation. Coming up next, we have an action movie that I just adore, and it is, of course, Samurai Cop. Again, just, horrendous editing. It really is god awful. The action in it is laughable. Everything about this movie, the way it is shot, is just face right in the center of the screen, and yeah, it is just, it doesn't know what it's doing, this movie. The whole, the director sort of told, I think his cast, that he'd finished wrapping up the movie, and obviously the lead actor in this movie has long hair, so the lead actor thought the movie had finished and cut all of his hair off, and ended up having to come back for reshoots, and the director absolutely lost his shit and said, "What have you done to your hair?" So they put this woman's wig on him, and it shows, and you can't turn away from it. It is just so funny. Very Lethal Weapon fueled and inspired this movie, and it is just god awful. It is a train wreck, and I have so much fun with it. So yeah, that is Samurai Cop. Next up, we have a comedy from, I believe, the early 90s, and yeah, this one is just, it's awful. Biodome. Pauly Shore and Stephen Baldwin. I get a kick out of how unfunny this movie is and how horrendously awful, the movie thinks it is being funny, but it just isn't. And it's kind of inspired me to check out more of Pauly Shore's work. The only other film I think I've seen him in that's live action is Encino Man. But yeah, I kind of want to check out some of his other early 90s stuff. But yeah, Biodome is just shockingly bad. It really, really is. It would never be made today. The jokes and humour in it just would not fly. It really, really is awful. Yeah, I can't say much more about it than that. It's one of these unfunny movies that just doesn't hold up. Yeah, that is Biodome. Next up, we have a movie that I have massive nostalgia for, and obviously it's awful because otherwise it wouldn't be on this list. And that is, of course, Spice World, the movie. I like the music by the Spice Girls. I'm not ashamed to admit that. I do. I don't care. And yeah, these were just massive at the time when I was a kid. And obviously, a movie was inevitable. It came out. It's awful. It's just chock full of plot holes that are just all over the place. There's no structure to the movie. It's chock full of pointless cameos, and yet I love it. It's why I own it. I just have so much fun with this movie. I just get a kick out of it. So yeah, that is Spice World, the movie. Next up, we've got a movie with John Travolta, and that is, of course, Battlefield Earth. Again, another movie that is just infamous for how awful it is. And yeah, I think the main big takeaway for me is obviously the bad acting, but the way this movie's shot, the whole tilted camera angle, which is what I think it's famous for, it just gives you a massive pain in the neck. It really, really does, the way this movie's shot. Just don't like it at all. But at the same time, it's so entertaining because of it. Yeah, it's just really, really is. It's not one I go back to a hell of a lot, but I know how awful this movie is, and I know how, renowned it is amongst awful movies. But yeah, that is Battlefield Earth. Next up, we've got one that, again, another movie I grew up on and had, being a kid, was none the wiser. I don't see this one get talked about an awful lot, but it's a movie with Hulk Hogan, and that is The Secret Agent Club. Yeah, this is a bizarre movie. It really, really is. It's the whole secret agent trope. It's a poor man's James Bond. It really, really is. It is just awful. So it's pretty much Hulk Hogan is this dad who is like a stay-at-home dad, but he's obviously like a secret agent in real life. And his kids end up finding out, and they end up sort of taking on these bad guys when he gets kidnapped, and it's awful. These kids end up, ransacking this toy shop and end up defeating the villains of the movie with these toys, and it is just, it's really, really bad. It's got a good cast behind it though, but it's awful. But again, I get such a kick out of this movie, and I have just an absolute blast with it. So yeah, that is The Secret Agent Club. So speaking of Hulk Hogan, wait for this double pack, honestly. Absolutely phenomenal. We have Mr. Nanny and Suburban Commando. Yeah, in particular, Suburban Commando for me is just a movie I absolutely adore. Yeah, it has such a classic Saturday afternoon ITV feel about it. The cast in this is great. Shirley Duvall and Christopher Lloyd. I was expecting like a Back to the Future-esque kind of story with this movie. Obviously because it had Christopher Lloyd in it, but my word, it is a train wreck. And I absolutely love it. I just really, really dig Suburban Commando. For as awful as it is, it really does make me chuckle. The whole famous "I was frozen today" line came from here, and yeah, it's just wonderful 90s awfulness. So yeah, that is Mr. Nanny and Suburban Commando. Next up, we've got a movie with Mike Myers from Dr. Seuss, and that is, of course, Cat in the Hat. This is a movie, and the next movie that I have on this list as well. These are movies that will really, really give you unintentional nightmare fuel. Yeah, I just have an absolute blast with how bad these movies are. I really, really do. I think this was the movie that pretty much Dr. Seuss's widow put a stop to live action adaptations of his work. We haven't had one since, I don't think. I think it's pretty much all been animation. But yeah, this is just a piss weak adaptation. And horribly miscast. Shameful plugs in this movie. My word, they're just awful. But saying that, I get a kick out of it because of how bad it is. So yeah, that is The Cat in the Hat. Again, another movie now, one of the worst sequels ever made. Son of the Mask. Like Cat in the Hat, nightmare fuel. Alan Cummings in this movie is just terrifying, and yet you can't take your eyes away from the screen because it is just so awful. Yeah, the music numbers in this movie are painful to get through, and yeah, well, the whole movie is, to be honest, but my god, do I love it for its awfulness. Yeah, I just really, really do. It's just a blueprint again for a misfire of a movie and how not to make one. So that is Son of the Mask. Next up, we've got another sequel that I have such nostalgia for, this movie. I don't think it's as good as the first one because pretty much nearly everyone was recast. So we have the Flintstones in Fever Rock Vegas. Yeah, another movie with Stephen Baldwin as Barney Rubble. We got Mark Addy in there as Fred Flintstone. And yeah, it is just, I have such nostalgia for it. I think the set pieces in this movie look great. The story is god awful. There's a subplot in this movie where they rip off a scene from Titanic, and yeah, it's awful in every way, shape or form. But yet I still have a blast with it. And yeah, just again another horrible movie. Next up, we've got a movie that's a third movie in an installment of this particular franchise. And again, I loved this movie as a kid, seeing it on ITV back in the day. And I just really, really remember having a good time with this movie. Going back to it, revisiting it, it's shocking how bad this movie is. And it is, of course, Neverending Story 3, Return to Fantasia. Yeah, it just butchers everything the original movie set up. Falcor is now a blithering idiot in this movie. The only saving grace I'd give it is Jack Black is really, really having fun as the villain. He sports this monobrow in the movie as well, and yeah, I just have a fun time with him. Fun time with Jack Black in this movie. You can tell he's enjoying himself, but every other sort of character is just butchered beyond belief. You know, everything that original movie stands for is just assassinated in this sequel, and I love it. I love it for it. It's just a really, really good time. This movie, you know, you want a bad movie to watch and have a great time, Neverending Story 3, I think, will put a smile on your face. Next up, we've got another kids movie I saw quite recently, just a couple of years ago for the first time. And that is, of course, the Garbage Pail Kids movie. Again, another movie that is a complete misfire, stocked full of unintentional nightmare fuel with the designs of the Garbage Pail Kids. They are just obnoxiously awful. The villains in this movie, the bullies, the school bullies, I might add, are like in their 30s. It's just really, really questionable, this movie. It is just, it's god awful. It really, really is. And yet again, another movie I watch, my eyes are glued to the screen, can't take away, massively entertained by how awful it is. So yeah, that is the Garbage Pail Kids movie. Next up, we've got another movie. This is the final movie on my list. for me, that is just, again, infamous for how bad it is. It's one of the most shameful movies ever in terms of product placement. But the whole restaurant scene is just, it makes the movie for me. It really, really does. So we've got Mac and Me. This is a movie you need to watch with a McDonald's. It just really, really is. Get yourself a Coke as well. And my word, it is just, it's like if E.T. and McDonald's made this horrible combination. It really, really is. It is just frighteningly awful, and yet so entertaining. You just can't take your eyes away from it. It's one of those movies, again, that is, you know, infamous among the community. It really, really is. I have so much fun with this movie. It just has to be seen to be believed. And yeah, that is Mac and Me. So yeah, those are just some of the worst movies in my collection that I absolutely get a kick out of, and I just absolutely enjoy. I do have some other movies as well that are sort of on the same lanes as these movies that I just really, really have a blast with. So yeah, just let me know some of the worst movies that you've seen that you absolutely enjoy the hell out of and provide you with so much entertainment. But yeah, gonna leave the video there, guys, and say thanks very much for watching. Stay safe, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye for now.